So we have 30 bills. Okay, we're going to, excuse me, we're going to welcome. You can continue talking. I just want to say welcome. No. The authors have pulled today items number 6, AB 628 block, and item number 9, AB 702, solace, from today's agenda. So those have been pulled.
Say those again, please. 6 and 9.
6 and 9 have been pulled. Item number 8, AB 672 Bass, has been added to today's consent calendar, which means that I think we have 7 items on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the consent, and 29 bills to be heard. So that's a lot. We're going to have a long hearing. So remember, in this committee, we take testimony from 2 witnesses in support, each one allowed 3 minutes. 2 witnesses against, each one allowed 3 minutes. And then all other witnesses, subsequent witnesses, shall be asked just to state their name, their organization, and their position for the record. I also really like it when members of the committee can hear the testimony and engage in a dialogue. So please take your conversations out of the room so that we can respect those that are speaking on the record versus those speaking off the record. Our first author will be Senator Duchesne, item number 1, SB 474. Welcome, Senator Duchesne.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members. This bill has been heard before, so
Yes, it
I
has.
won't go too long, but we have taken amendments that any findings are after the award of the contract to mitigate the concerns raised by some of the opponents a while back. This is really just to let CTC include this information in their report so people can actually analyze the pilot, its effectiveness, exactly what people expected and what they received out of the proposal. It's simply a place where we get transparency, that we can track timelines. It's an existing CTC report, and it would just be an add to that in a way that everybody could review that information as they review all other project information when that CTC report comes out annually. So we appreciate the committee's assistance in drafting the amendments, and I'd ask for your aye vote.
We don't have a quorum now, so we won't be able to take up the vote. Do you have witnesses? I know you've presented this bill before. Do you have witnesses today in support, or we don't need to? All right, because we have heard
I think
already.
you've heard, yeah.
We have. But I should hear if there is any witness in opposition. Is there anybody in opposition? Not hearing any. Will someone make a motion on the bill when we have a quorum?
She won't.
Huh? Senator Huff would be pleased to do that.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
But we can't do that right now.
Okay.
But it's a pleasure
When you
having
get
you
there.
present.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
In a very succinct way, and let that be a message and a model for everyone else that's
There
out
you go.
Thank you,
very
Senator
much, Mr.
Duchesne.
Chairman.
Ma is here, item number 2.
Item number 2, Assemblymember Ma. Welcome, Assemblymember.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Which bill would you like me to present
Let's
first?
do 144, disabled parking violations.
Great. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. The overall goal of AB 144 is to improve access, mobility, and quality of life for drivers with disabilities. Specifically, the bill will provide a disincentive for illegal use of disability placards by increasing the penalty for their misuse and by enabling local governments to combat these offenses through alternative enforcement methods. Currently, in San Francisco, only police officers are able to cite for illegal use for placards, and so this bill will enable parking control officers to cite for these violations, and it will also increase the penalty for misuse from $100 to a range between $250 and $1,000.
Thank you. Witnesses in support.
Good afternoon. Steve Wallach on behalf of the City and County of San Francisco and the San Francisco Municipal...
Can you speak into the microphone, please, for the record? And start up again.
Okay. Steve Wallach on behalf of the City and County of San Francisco. We're the sponsors of this bill. We feel these changes are needed to improve enforcement of disabled placard abuse in San Francisco, and we urge your support.
Thank you.
Charlotte Newhart with California Foundation for Independent Living Centers in strong support.
Thank you. And here, coming up, another witness in support.
Thank you. Jennifer Whiting with the League of California Cities in support.
Thank you. Are there any witnesses in opposition? Not hearing any members of the committee wish to say anything? Senator Pavley will make a motion. As chair, I think this is a good bill, and I will be supportive of the bill. Would you like to close, Assembly Member?
Respectfully ask for your aye votes.
Thank you. We will be taking up item number 2. As soon as we have a quorum, we're short one member, so if the sergeant can call the members, we are just short one member for a quorum.
Item number 4, Salas is here.
We have another one from Assembly Member Ma. I believe item number 26, AB 1203, Transportation Bond Funds.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. This is a no-cost bill that will improve the way Prop 1B funds are allocated to emergency and disaster relief agencies, particularly for waterborne transportation. The legislature recently established the San Francisco Bay Area Water Emergency Transit Authority to ensure that there was one regional agency building and coordinating transportation systems to move people, food, medicine, and emergency personnel and equipment in the aftermath of a disaster or emergency. The need for this type of coordination was made abundantly clear in the aftermath of the Loma Prieta earthquake, Hurricane Katrina, and other recent events. With me here is Shane Guzman with the San Francisco Bay Area Water Emergency Transit Authority and other members of the community to support the bill.
Witnesses in support.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Shane Guzman on behalf of the Bay Area Water Transit Emergency Authority. This bill is necessary. Right now, the way the funding stream works is that it's a reimbursable grant program. It creates a real cash flow crisis for the agency, and this would change the funding stream to be just like the other Prop 1B funds, where it is an upfront grant process and allow us to have a better cash flow. So we'd ask for your aye vote.
Other witnesses in support.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Lee Sandall on behalf of the International Longshore and Warehouse Union and the Inland Boatmen's Union, an affiliate of the International Longshore and Warehouse Union, whose members crew the Golden Gate Transit District ferry boats on San Francisco Bay. We ask for your support.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. Gus Coyne on behalf of the California Transit Association, strong support of the measure.
Thank you, Gus. Any other witnesses in support? Are there witnesses in opposition? Again, we are short one member for a quorum.
No, 2 now.
No, here's right here.
Yes, you're right.
I didn't say you were short, Mr. Senator Ashby. I said we're short one member.
I have heard numerous references to short.
Assemblymember Ma, will you help us in this moment?
Thank you. Yes, the bill has received unanimous support in the Assembly and has support from both the San Francisco Chamber and the California Labor Federation. Respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Senator Walk will move the bill as soon as we have a quorum.
Thank you very much, members.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Four. Now, Assemblymember Salas. AB 286. This is the way we're going. Let's hope we don't have a quorum. Let's just get through it.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. I'm proud to present to you a public safety measure that equips law enforcement with the necessary tools to combat the persistent problem of vehicle theft. As you may know, California has among the highest rates of vehicle theft in the country. Car thieves are increasingly employing sophisticated tactics to steal cars, strip them of their parts, and in some cases ship them to other countries. In order to stem the tide of vehicle theft, law enforcement needs every tool available to fight organized car thieves. This bill will ensure that law enforcement agencies have the most valuable tool to combat vehicle theft. Specifically, AB 286 extends until 2018 the sunset date on existing provisions that authorizes counties to fund programs that enhance the capacity of local police and prosecutors to deter, investigate, and prosecute vehicle theft crimes. Currently, 47 counties operate vehicle theft prevention and prosecution programs. San Diego County, for example, operates a regional auto theft task force, a multi-agency law enforcement team of detectives and prosecutors. In 2008, the San Diego Task Force recovered 319 stolen vehicles valued at over $3 million. Los Angeles County operates a task force for regional auto theft prevention, a multi-agency task force that has recovered over 20,000 vehicles with a value of $350 million since 1993. Without action by the legislature, existing vehicle theft deterrence and recovery programs in 47 counties will lose funding at the end of the year. This bill is co-sponsored by the San Diego County District Attorney's Office, the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, the California State Sheriff's Association, and is supported by numerous law enforcement agencies throughout the state. And I urge you today in helping me provide the tools that law enforcement needs to keep the fight up against auto theft. And I have witnesses here in support.
Good. Witnesses in support.
Mr. Chairman, members, Dan Filizotto on behalf of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. As Assemblywoman Salas mentioned, this is a very successful program. It's been in effect for several years now. This bill simply extends the sunset of this program until 2018 in Los Angeles County. Since this program has been in effect, we have successfully prosecuted over 4,000 cases of organized crime involving auto theft, chop shops, and the such. And the value of the vehicles that we've recovered so far has actually exceeded now close to $400 million. This bill was before this committee last year as AB 860. The analysis reflects that, and we'll just ask for your aye vote to answer any questions you may have.
And it passed this committee and, and
It was
received
given-
the generic veto by the governor. Other witnesses in support.
Yes, good afternoon. I am Dominic Dugo. On behalf of the San Diego County District Attorney Bonnie Dumanis, I urge you to pass AB 286. California has the most vehicle thefts of any state in the nation. In 2008, California had 200,000 vehicle thefts costing the taxpayers $1.3 billion. California also has a distinction of also having the highest vehicle theft rates in the nation. 7 of the top 11 cities in the nation with the highest vehicle theft rates are right here in California. They are number 1 in the country, Modesto. Number 4, San Diego. Number 5, Bakersfield. Number 6, Stockton. Number 9, San Francisco, Oakland. Number 10, Fresno. And number 11, Visalia. As you can tell, this is a statewide problem. And the funding, as was mentioned, in San Diego, we have a RAT team, undercover law enforcement group, and they're quite effective. The strategy basically is we do undercover operations, you identify the criminal organization, you infiltrate the organization, and then you destroy it. Because when you have 8 or 9 members in these criminal rings, if you don't take down all 8 or 9, auto theft problem continues. If you just arrest one person, the organization continues. And that's how we're using the money. Now, I started on a rather negative note. I'd like to end on a positive note. For 2008, auto theft, we are having some successes statewide. Auto theft is down in California 12.2% compared to 2007. And in San Diego, auto theft is down 19%. Thank you.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support.
Lieutenant Wayne Billowit here on behalf of Los Angeles County Sheriff Lee Baca. We operate the team in Los Angeles, and we strongly urge your support. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support.
Mr. Chairman, members, Corey Salzillo on behalf of the California District Attorneys Association in support. Mr. Chairman, members, Al Cooper representing Sacramento County Sheriff's Department in support.
Mr. Chair, members, Paulo Labrie with AAA of Northern California, also in support.
Mr. Chairman, members, David Jones on behalf of the City of Sacramento in strong support.
Jennifer Whiting with the League of California Cities in support.
Rosemary Lamb with the California State Association of Counties, also in support.
Brian Moss with the California New Car Dealers Association. We're in support as well.
And Rosemary Shahan, President of Consumers for Auto Reliability and Safety. We urge your aye vote.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support? Witnesses in opposition? Not hearing any. We don't have a quorum, but if we do, once we do have a quorum, I'm sure Senator Kehoe or Senator Walk, but Senator Kehoe will give a motion on the bill. We'll place a motion.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like to close?
I would like to close. Members, this is really an important bill. This is extending the sunset on a $1 fee that's attached to your vehicle license fee. That is a voluntary opt-in program by the counties, and it's been in existence since 1990 and has been proven to be very, very successful. So when you're making your decision on this bill, I would like you to remember that right now during the budget cuts, our counties and our cities are having to lay off police officers and really disseminating their public safety budget. So this is dollars that they can't afford to lose. And I sincerely hope you can support this bill when it comes to a vote. Thank you.
So we're going to do Salas, the next one.
Yes.
Thank you. We will hold off on the vote on that until we have a quorum. We're short one member. I believe your next bill is item number 30, AB 1328.
Yes, AB 1328 is an important measure that will promote the use of energy and water efficiency technologies in common interest development. Specifically, AB 1328 will allow associations in common interest developments to enter into multi-year contracts in order to take advantage of energy and water efficiency programs. Currently, the governing documents in some associations contain a provision limiting the duration of all contracts to 1 year. The challenge is that the full extent of savings from viable energy and water efficiency programs cannot be realized within 1 year, and it may not be worth the vendor to implement the necessary infrastructure for such a short-term contract. Consequently, it is not feasible for vendors to enter into contracts with these associations. By entering into multi-year contracts, service providers and associations are able to plan for and implement the necessary infrastructure for energy efficiency and water savings. AB 1328 will allow multi-year contracts only when there are verifiable savings to the association. And in response to concerns that were raised, I have amended the bill to limit the duration of these contracts to no more than 5 years and added language to prevent conflict of interest between board members and developers. And with me today to help me in support is Jennifer Wada, and she is representing the California Association of Community Managers.
Assembly member, are you taking as an author's amendment to require that the agenda, the CID agenda, provide notice to members on the length of the contract also?
I will do that.
Thank you. That will be accepted as an author's amendment.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members. Jennifer Wada with the Wada Williams Law Group here today on behalf of the California Association of Community Managers. This measure is an important measure. It would allow associations to become proactive participants in conserving water and energy in this state. At the same time, it would allow homeowners to benefit from significant savings. We know of one program that does water monitoring that has proven to save average-sized properties anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 and large-sized properties over $50,000. So it's a significant cost savings for homeowners. Considering the fact that CIDs account for over a third of California's housing stock, I don't think the positive impact of this bill can be underestimated in terms of water and energy conservation that's so needed in the state, as well as a cost savings for the homeowners. So for those reasons, we would urge your aye vote.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support?
Good afternoon. I'm Catherine Henriksen. I'm General Manager for Lake of the Pines Association. It's a 2,000-member resort community in Auburn, California. We are here to support your aye vote on this.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support? Witnesses in opposition?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Skip Daum on behalf of the Community Associations Institute. A couple of quick points. It's significant to note that the homeowner associations themselves in general in California are not asking for this legislation. It is sponsored by the association managers. Secondly, it's important to note as well that current law allows, through the DRE regulations, certain exemptions to the one-year contract rule as up to 3 years. So the bill is unnecessary. And perhaps most importantly is this fact, that you're going to be obligating board members for up to 5 years. And so, in other words, if a volunteer board of 4 or 5 members makes a decision, for the next 4 years, the ensuing board members, the new board members, are obligated to that. And finally, I would suggest to you that the language in the bill is still not there. It's still not right. It severely lacks definitions into what is savings. Savings in what? Money? Water, wattage, what is verifiable? What happens if this formula, this proposed formula by some energy company or a provider changes in the 5 years? Okay. In other words, I don't think the bill is thoroughly vetted in terms of how these contracts should be approved. Now, when the DRE regs were propagated, they were thoroughly vetted. They saw that certain things like cable connections needed to be longer term in today's economy. And we all know there's an issue of water out there. But the problem is we don't want these volunteer boards of directors to be inundated with promises about what great savings they're going to achieve over the next 5 years. How is that verifiable for a board to enter into an obligation for 5 years? So for these and other reasons, we oppose the bill without significantly more work being done on it. And by the way, I should say that we have offered amendments to the sponsors in the past, and some of those have been reacted to both by authors' amendments, and the committee analysis reflects that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I think you raised some very important concerns. I think the one is that, traditionally contracts have been limited to 1 year. There have been some exemptions. You believe that this would be an exemption. My understanding of the law with consultant is that this would not be allowable without legislation, that we do need, if we're going to make an exemption, that it does need statutory language. But I think the underlying issue is that you're right, that we are overriding some of the existing documents, and that governmental governing documents which do limit the length of contracts. And I appreciate that. It's important for us to understand that.
That is the public policy issue.
That's right. Are there other witnesses? And I'll give you a chance to respond to that when we can. Are there other witnesses in opposition? Members of the committee.
Thank you,
Senator Kehoe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You just noted item 4 in the analysis, the length of the contract, providing a notice to members. There's another comment, item 3, the execution of water and energy efficiency contracts under this bill would allow an override of the CID's general decision-making process. Has the author addressed that one?
Excuse me, I didn't hear the question.
The suggested or amendment on item 3, which is on page 2 of the analysis.
Yes, we accepted that.
Okay, thank you. They're
No,
both
I
in.
think so.
I think there's some confusion here.
Yeah, there is.
Which one?
The author had accepted an amendment to address comment 4. The bolded in comment 3 was really just an item for the committee to consider, but there was no suggested amendment.
The overriding the homeowners association's general, decision-making process, is an important consideration. Those of us that are condo owners realize that that's a difficult job for volunteers, and setting up another way to arrive at a decision complicates the matter even further. I don't know what we do about it on the fly here today, but maybe some of the homeowners association people would have a comment, or any of the authors witnesses.
Yes, and I think you're speaking to the amending the governing documents, and if you'd like to reply to that.
Yeah, first of all, I want to
Not so much amending the governing documents unless they're dealing specifically with the decision-making process, how the folks arrive at a vote.
Sure.
In the evening after work, after a long day when they're dealing with a lot of information.
Sure. Well, currently in existing law, you can enter into these types of contracts, but typically you would have to amend your governing documents to do so. The reason why we're coming with this legislation is because it's extremely costly and time-consuming for the homeowners to amend the governing documents. Furthermore, in the DRE regulations, which this would become an exemption, there's already a precedent for exemptions such as laundry room contracts, cable contracts, things that necessarily require longer-term contracts. From our findings, and we agree that water and energy efficiency contracts are of this similar nature, where vendors are not entering into the contracts because either the savings can't be realized within 1 year or it's not worth the infrastructure. And so they do require longer-term contracts. In terms of in what we have found, typically the contracts are around 5 years, which is why we are okay with capping the contracts at 5 years. Specifically to your question about the governing documents issue, I can have Catherine speak to that, but it's extremely costly because of the new secret ballot election process that was put into law a couple of years ago. It requires sending out to all the members by first-class mail. It requires double stuffing of envelopes. And also, I think it's important to note that it's not necessarily that the homeowners would not want this. It's really that the association, oftentimes the boards of directors don't find it worth it to go through the cost and time the time to go through this process. So it essentially limits the homeowners from getting that water and energy conservation and that cost savings that, almost always comes with these types of multi-year contracts. And again, it is permissive. The association does not have to do it if they don't want to.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
could we hear from the Homeowners Association?
Absolutely.
Thank you for your comments, Miss, but just to get the other side. Sure.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Keogh. Mr. Chairman. Point number one, the elections aren't necessarily expensive. Most HOAs have 100 or fewer homes in them. My HOA had 6 homes in it, and another had 12 in it. We're not talking about massive expenses here or delays. And secondly, the regs already allow for contracts, general contracts, up to 3 years, with the exception to the general rule. My concern is this. We're going to obligate, whether it's 100 or 1,000 homeowners, up to 5 years in a contract. And if the regs already allow for certain exemptions, there's also a provision in the regulations that say, look, if you have a long-term contract and you may exit that contract within the first year, then you may be able to do so without a penalty. There's nothing in this bill that would avoid liquidated damage clauses on the 4.5-year mark. There's nothing in the bill that determines what happens to these so-called verifiable savings if in year 3 the things change. The water supply differs. The mechanisms that actually provide the water or restrict the water become improved, and you get a different one at Home Depot. So to wrap it up, I'm going to say that in an answer to Senator Keogh's main question, the bill just needs more work. I mean, it's a great idea, but again, I get back to point one. I represent the homeowner associations statewide, and we don't think the bill is ready to go yet.
We have a quorum, so we're going to call the roll first, and then we'll come back to Senator Kehoe's question. Lowenthal?
Lowenthal?
Not here. Go on. Lowenthal here.
In a manner of speaking.
Ashburn. DeSaulnier.
Here.
Harmon. Hollingsworth. Kehoe. Oropeza. Pavley. Semidian. Walk. Okay.
Thank you. I'd like to announce before we get back to Senator Kehoe that Assemblymember Nava has pulled AB 566, item 5, from today's agenda. That item has been pulled and will be laid over until, I believe, the next hearing. At the request of the author, not the committee.
Yeah.
Senator Kehoe.
I would ask the Mr. Chairman, ask the author to respond, or have her witnesses respond, to see if there's, a balance that you can achieve here, to have the water savings, which I support, and the energy savings, because there's a lot that needs to be done here on exterior landscaping, a lot of savings that can be captured rather cheaply. So I don't want to prevent that, but we want to also make sure that there's due process on the homeowners association side of the sheet also.
Well, first of all, this bill is permissive in nature. So that means it's left up to the board to negotiate the terms and determine whether the contract is good for the association or not. So, and the board does have the duty to perform in the best interest in the interest of the owners. And if you think about it, binding future residents, it's common that in the nonprofit world or in the private domain is that boards do enter into contracts on a regular basis where the term of the board may be shorter than 1 or 2 years. So I don't know if that answers your question, but if you'd like to add to that.
I think that was responsive. The other thing I'd like to note is that playing off what Ms. Salas has said about it leaves it to the associations to determine. The associations have a fiduciary duty to their homeowners to act in the best interest of their homeowners. And if it does leave authority to the association, what we can't do is we can't write into legislation and dictate from Sacramento what terms are appropriate for that particular association. As Mr. Dom talked about, some associations are very small. Other associations are very large. Ms. Hendrickson here, her association is 2,000 units, and when they've tried to use that secret ballot election process in the past, it's cost their association over $10,000. We have to remember that associations work on zero-based budgets, so every single penny that the association incurs is ultimately directly paid by the homeowners. So because there is precedent in the law currently for other contracts up to 5 years, Skip talks about the 3 years, that's true, but typically these types of contracts, what we found, are around 5 years, and there are 5-year exceptions or allowances for laundry or for cable contracts, I think is one of them. There's precedent in the law for this sort of thing, and because of the important policy, because it leaves it to the associations who have a fiduciary duty to their homeowners to decide what terms, if it's not a good contract and they are worried about 2 years down the road it not yielding savings, they don't have to enter into it.
Thank you.
The bill's been moved by Senator Kehoe. Would you like to close? As amended.
Yes, I ask for your aye vote on the bill as amended.
Thank you, Assembly Member. Secretary, please call the roll.
Lowenthal.
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Huff. No. Huff, no. Ashburn. Ashburn, no. DeSaulnier. DeSaulnier, aye. Harmon. Hollingsworth. Kehoe.
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Oropeza. Pavley. Semidian. Wolk. Wolk, aye. 4-2.
That bill has 4 votes. We'll place it on call. It needs 2 more votes for passage.
Thank you so much.
We're going to go back to the items that we've already heard that we have not yet voted on. The first one was Senate Bill 474, Senator Ducheney. The bill's been moved by Senator Kehoe. Secretary, please call the roll.
Lowenthal.
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Huff. Ashburn. DeSaulnier.
Aye.
DeSaulnier, aye. Harmon. Hollingsworth. Kehoe. Aye. Kehoe, aye. Oropeza. Pavley. Semidian. Semidian, aye. Wolk.
Not voting.
Ashburn, no. 4-1.
Bill has 4 votes. We'll place that on call. Next bill is Salas, AB 286, the vehicle oh, did we do Ma?
Item number 2.
Oh, I'm sorry. Item number 2, the next one, AB 144 Ma. That's vehicles, distinguishing placards and license plates. It's been moved by Senator Walk, I believe, first moved that bill. Secretary,
Lowenthal.
please call the roll. Aye.
Excuse me. Lowenthal, aye. Huff. This is my,
The Ma distinguishing placards.
No. Ashburn. Ashburn, no. DeSaulnier. DeSaulnier, I. Harmon. Hollingsworth. Kehoe. Kehoe, I. Oropeza. Pavley. Semidian. Walk. Walk, I. 4-2. Semidian, I. 5-2.
Bill has 5 votes. We'll place that on call. Now, Salas, AB 286, item number 4. Additional registration fees for vehicles, $1.
Lowenthal.
Bill has been moved by Senator Walk.
Lowenthal.
Aye.
Lowenthal, I. Huff. Huff, no. Ashburn. Ashburn, no. DeSaulnier. DeSaulnier, I. Hollingsworth. Excuse me. Harmon. Hollingsworth. Kehoe. Kehoe, I. Oropeza. Pavley. Semidian. Semidian, I. Walk. Walk, I. 5-2.
Bill has 5 votes. We'll place that on call. Item number 5, AB 566, Nava, has been pulled from today's calendar. We're now ready to go on to item number 7, AB 6. Wait, there's one other?
No. Yeah, you have 1203.
Which is?
Item number 26.
Oh, item number 26. I'm sorry. That's Assemblymember Ma. Item number 26.
Lowenthal.
Aye.
Lowenthal, I. Huff. Huff, I. Ashburn.
Aye.
Ashburn, I. DeSaulnier. DeSaulnier, I. Harmon. Hollingsworth. Kehoe.
Aye.
Kehoe, I. Oropeza. Pavley. Semidian. Walk. Walk, I. 6-0. Semidian, I. 7-0.
Bill has 7 votes, sufficient for passage. We'll place that on call for the absent member.
Mr. Chairman, would you consider taking up the consent calendar since it's going to
I
be one of
certainly
those
would
days?
consider doing that.
I'm happy to move it, and that with the technical amendments, too.
Okay, the consent calendar. Remember, item number 8, AB 672, has been added to today's consent calendar.
Oh, good.
6-7.
Okay, so that means that's item number 3, 8, 11, 31, 34, 37, 38, and 39.
Lowenthal.
Aye.
Lowenthal, I. Huff. Huff, I. Ashburn. Ashburn, I. DeSaulnier.
Aye.
DeSaulnier, I. Harmon. Hollingsworth. Kehoe. Kehoe, I. Oropeza. Pavley. Semidian. Semidian, I. Walk. Walk, I. 7-0.
Consent calendar has 7 votes, sufficient for passage, but we'll place it on call for the absent members. Thank you, members. We've now caught up. Let's move on to item number 7, AB 640.
No, we're going to take Lou, remember?
Oh. No, we're going to take up. We're going to take up item number 7, AB 647, Assemblymember Yamada. Welcome to the committee. And we'll take up Assemblymember Liu next.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members. I am presenting AB 647, which would allow consumer access to the National Motor Vehicle Title Information System, otherwise known as MVITIS. MVITIS was established under the Anti-Car Theft Act of 1992 and is an electronic vehicle history database maintained at the federal level by the Department of Justice. Although California does participate in the MVITIS program, we are currently the only state that restricts direct consumer access to this vital information. We believe that it is important for consumers to have this information, particularly in these times of economic downturn when people, unfortunately for the new car dealers, are not buying new cars but are tending to keep their old cars or sell used cars and purchase new cars. So I believe it is even more incumbent upon us to ensure that California is complying with this federal law. With me is Rosemary Shaheen, who is a representative who can speak and answer additional questions that you may have.
Assembly member, I believe that the wording of the bill needs to be clarified, such as that the January 1st, 2010 date in the bill only applies to eliminating the barriers to consumer access, not to compliance with the rest of the federal
Absolutely,
legislation. That was comment number 5 in the analysis, and you will take that as
and
an
we
author's amendment.
gratefully accept the committee's amendments, and they improve and strengthen the bill, and we
Thank
do
you.
accept them. Thank you.
Thank you. As amended.
Yes.
Witnesses in support.
Mr. Chair and members, I'm Rosemary Shahan, President of Consumers for Auto Reliability and Safety. We're the sponsors of the bill, and this is an important measure that's needed to complete a program that will help California avoid auto theft and salvage fraud and related crimes, which go to damage consumers and sometimes fund some very unsavory groups. We believe it's an important consumer protection and law enforcement measure, and we would greatly appreciate your aye vote.
So while DMV is already moving in this direction, this provides the imperative for them to complete their work and make sure that it's done in a timely way. Thank you. Other witnesses in support? Are there any witnesses in opposition? Comments from members of the committee? The bill's been moved by Senator Kehoe. Would you like to close this assembly?
I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Why, thank you.
Thank you.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Lowenthal.
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Huff. Huff, aye. Ashburn. Ashburn, aye. DeSaulnier. Harmon. Hollingsworth. Kehoe. Kehoe, aye. Oropeza. Pavley. Semidian. Semidian, aye. Wolk. Wolk, aye. 6-0.
The bill has sufficient votes for passage, but we're going to place that on call for the absent member.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much, Assembly Member. Assembly Member Liu, thank you for your patience. Item number 16, AB 828, Green Building Standards. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and Senators. AB 828 is a bill that's co-sponsored by the Natural Resources Defense Council and the Environmental Defense Fund. It establishes a comprehensive process for developing statewide green building standards that incorporate expertise from state agencies responsible for protecting California's public health and environment. The California Building Standards Commission is currently developing green building standards for inclusion in the California Building Codes. Although the Commission has made a good effort in developing an initial set of voluntary green building standards, clarity and authority are required to ensure that the many other expert state agencies are also involved and that their recommendations are considered. This bill provides that clarity and authority, and it also ensures that the California Energy Commission has authority to adopt energy efficiency standards, whether voluntary or mandatory. Respectfully request an aye vote. I have witnesses here in support.
Can you speak into the microphone? Okay, thank you.
Laura Navarro from Environmental Defense Fund. We are co-sponsoring this bill because it ensures that expert state agencies, environmental and health state agencies, and other interested stakeholders have a say in the green building process that's already underway. It requires that agencies developing the green building standards seek the input from agencies like the Department of Public Health and others with expertise and respond to their comments. It also requires the developing agencies to consult with representatives from the environmental community, industry, and other interested parties. Additionally, as Assemblymember Liu said, it clarifies the authority of the Energy Commission to develop voluntary green building standards. These standards will help the state test and disseminate innovative energy efficiency measures to ease market adoption and industry compliance with future standards. We've worked with representatives from the environmental community, labor, and the building industry to ensure that AB 828 is a balanced approach that will increase the effectiveness of the Green Buildings Code. And for these reasons, we respectfully request your aye vote. Thank you.
Other witnesses in support?
Yes, I'm Nick Ziegelbaum from the Natural Resources Defense Council. We're co-sponsoring this bill because it's necessary to provide statutory direction for developing the Green Building Code. It represents the legislature's opportunity to ensure the relevant and expert agencies and stakeholders are at the table during that development process. These agencies are expert in green building principles and must provide such input to ensure the code is meaningful, rooted in sound science, and in the best interest of the state. To clarify, this bill does not provide authority to any private entity to write state code, nor does it tie the state to any third-party program. It simply provides the clarification or the direction to developing the code. Furthermore, as Lauren mentioned, this bill is broadly supported by industry, labor, and the environmental community. Since we began this process, we've been working with those stakeholders to make sure this bill is balanced and effective. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Tina Andley with the Planning and Conservation League in support. Pete Price for the Alameda County Waste Management Authority and the Northern California chapters of the U.S. Green Building Council in support.
Mr. Chair and members, I'm Matthew Harg with the California Business Properties Association. I've also been asked to represent CBIA, the California Building Industry Association, in support of this measure. It provides good clarification in law. We support the green building standards. Thank you.
Other witnesses in support? Are there witnesses in opposition? Good. That makes it easier. Bill's been moved by Senator Walk. Any comments from members of, or questions from members of the committee? Not hearing any. The bill's been moved. Assembly member, which...
Reserve 3 question, I vote.
Thank you. Secretary, please call the roll.
Lowenthal.
As this bill has a second referral to EQ, so this bill is due pass to Environmental Quality Committee. Lowenthal, aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Huff. No. Huff, no. Ashburn. No. Ashburn, no. DeSaulnier. Harmon. Hollingsworth. Kehoe. Aye. Kehoe, aye. Oropeza. Pavley. Semidian.
Aye.
Semidian, aye. Walk. Aye. Walk, aye. 4-2.
Bill has 4 votes. We'll place that on call for the absent member.
Thank you.
Thank you, Assembly member. Does he have another bill?
Yes, he does. I don't know.
And now, I think you have a second bill, Assembly member.
He has 3 of them. Item
2 more. AB 1500, item number 35, high occupancy lanes. 35. Let's just wait. Let me just get that out.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senators. Let me begin by accepting an amendment from the committee to shorten the sunset date extension from 2016 to 2014.
Thank you. As accepted as an author's amendment.
AB 1500 extends the sunset date on the use of high occupancy vehicle lanes by single occupant alternative fuel vehicles such as natural gas and electric vehicles. This bill will continue HOV lane access only for white sticker vehicles. It does not include it for the yellow sticker, which applies to hybrids. So this bill does not apply to any hybrids at all. It applies to natural gas and electric vehicles.
I think there are 8,000 of these compared to 80,000 of the yellow.
Correct. There's a lot less of the white stickers.
Less.
And with that, I have witnesses here in support. We saw 3 requests, and I vote. It simply extends the sunset to 2014.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Well, I haven't called witnesses in support. You are a witness in support,
I am, in fact.
Okay.
Pete Price, representing the California Natural Gas Vehicle Coalition. It does extend it only for these vehicles that are pure alternative fuel vehicles, natural gas and electric. They only run on those. They don't run on petroleum. It's very similar to a bill that passed through this committee and out of this House earlier in the year. That bill also deals with a next generation of hybrid, but also includes extension for the white sticker vehicles. And just want to say that these vehicles on the natural gas side anyway are lots of working vehicles. These are taxi cabs, airport fleet vehicles. With the Honda, a lot of them are Honda GX, very moderately priced vehicles, some conversions. So we'd like to continue this for a few more years and hope that these alt-fuel vehicles get off the ground. Thank you.
Other witnesses in support? Witnesses in opposition? Assembly member, I think this, by limiting it, the length of time, in opposition? In support?
No.
Something in the middle?
Something in the middle. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members.
For those in the middle.
On behalf of LEMTA, I want to start off by saying our board does not have a position on this bill. But we are concerned about the impact of extending the access of these vehicles into the HOV lane network on our demonstration program that we're doing on the 110 and the 10 hot lane demonstration program. And so we want to continue working with the author. We're especially concerned about the impact on traffic, especially on the I-10 HOV lane where it's 2 or more during peak time.
As we pointed out, and I think that's a very good point, first we limited the length of the extension, and we also felt that to differentiate between the white stickers, which are the next generation, which we're trying to promote, and the yellow, which are the present generation, that we're much more amenable to promoting the next generation than we are to just extending existing generation. So with that, members will have to deal with it, whether, and as it moves forward, then when we have a specific project, how that impacts that. But I will tell you, these are very limited numbers at this moment, and it's a limited time that we're extending it. And I will be supportive
We recognize that, and we also recognize these are the cleanest of the clean vehicles.
They are the cleanest.
And they have the access to the network for the longest period of time. I mean, we just have a responsibility to look at how this impacts the model that we develop for the hot lane network that we're going to engage in.
Absolutely. Thank you for your input. Are there other witnesses? Senator Kehoe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to the author, just to be clear, so the electric, the plug-in hybrids, electric gas, all those kinds of vehicles would qualify under this definition of low-emission vehicles?
Electric and gas do. Plug-in hybrid, I think it may depend on how well that performs. I'll have Pete Price answer it.
Mr. Chairman,
if you had a plug-in hybrid that can go 40 miles on electric before it hits gas, then
the bill that passed out of this House, SB 535 by Mr. Yee, includes pure natural gas and electric, as does this bill. It also includes the next generation of hybrids, the plug-in hybrids.
All right.
This bill is limited to the pure all-fuel vehicles. My organization supports the other bill as well, but we want to make sure that the white stickers are included.
Right. This only applies to the natural gas vehicles or to all electric.
Right.
Thank you.
Senator Huff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have historically and continue to have issues with anything that provides incentive for a portion of those HOV lanes other than what the taxpayers originally intended them for, and that was to get multiple people and vehicles traveling down those lanes. So I don't support this, and I do actually agree with the spokesperson for MTA. I guess he wasn't speaking in official capacity, but to the degree that we do have a study going on in LA County, and I think there's probably going to be a move toward creating hot lanes on HOV lanes. We are decreasing our capacity to get revenues that way. I don't support that either, incidentally, unless it's new capacity. But if I was prioritizing, I would rather incentivize those that actually pay into the transportation system, something that we can all benefit from, as opposed to vehicles that, because of their efficiency, are selling as fast as they're made anyway. I don't see a need to create an incentive on things that are already in short supply. So I don't support your bill for those reasons.
Is there the bill's been moved by Senator Walk this time? Would you like to close?
Respectfully request an aye vote.
As we're talking about as amended, right? AB 1500 as amended. Secretary, please call the roll.
Lowenthal.
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Huff.
No.
Huff, no. Ashburn. Ashburn, aye. DeSaulnier. Harmon. Hollingsworth. Kehoe.
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Oropeza. Pavley. Semidian.
Aye.
Semidian, aye. Wolk. Wolk, aye. 5-1.
That bill has 5 votes. We'll place that on call for the absent member. I believe you have one last bill. Item 36, AB 1527, motor vehicle emission reduction projects.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senators. Let me start off by accepting the amendments described on page 4 and 5 of the committee analysis, and they do the following. It removes a section of the bill that includes the Air Quality Improvement Program. It narrows the eligible federal funds to those aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and it adds language that requires projects to meet each individual program's requirements, or else they would not qualify for the commingling benefits within this measure. And with that, what this bill does is it basically modernizes our state agencies' ability to combine air quality program funds and climate change program funds to create incentives for enhanced projects that create greater benefits for air quality and increased reductions of greenhouse gas emissions. This takes basically the Carl Moyer program, the program within Proposition 1B, as well as AB 118, lets those funds to be combined so that it can then be used on projects that have a better environmental impact. This bill is sponsored by CalSTART, and respectfully request and I vote have witnesses here in support.
Witnesses in support.
Thank you, Chair and members. Reed Addison on behalf of CalSTART, sponsor of the measure today. As the Assembly member mentioned, we approached this policy after the passage of AB 118. We saw the value of taking AB 118, looking at Carl Moyer, and looking at Proposition 1B, and sought and saw that there were actually possibilities of generating synergies between those programs to advance new technologies that both decrease our dependence on petroleum, increase energy efficiency, and also decrease greenhouse gas emissions. We think this measure does do that in a very sophisticated, clear, and easy way. Hopefully you're having a graphic passed around to you right now, because the only thing I'd like to point out in the remainder of my testimony, thank you, Senator Pavley, is that there have been some questions about the use of Carl Moyer and 1B funds. It's a rather crude graphic you have, but hopefully it demonstrates. If you look at the one side that says without the passage of this bill, it clearly shows you could do a project under 1B or Carl Moyer, where maybe you're funding 5 trucks, for example. If you flip that page around, you'll see that if this bill becomes law, one of those projects you could simply add some 118 funding to, and one of those trucks becomes a new advanced technology truck. So you're not reducing the number of projects you can work on. You're not doing any changes to Carl Moyer or 1B. You're simply allowing, in certain circumstances, enhanced vehicles or enhanced technologies to be developed. With that, I'll close. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pete Price.
In support.
Pete Price again with the California Natural Gas Vehicle Coalition. Some of our members are applicants for these funds. The cost effectiveness calculation used to get a project funded under the Moyer program or the Prop 1B program is a really tough taskmaster. It's tough to meet those requirements. And we want to make sure that if you're using other funds that are not to reduce criteria air pollutants, but to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, it doesn't get mixed into that cost effectiveness calculation. It makes it even more difficult to reach the target you need. So it's a matter of just separating out the different goals of the programs. We support the bill.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support? Are there witnesses in opposition? Comments from members of the committee?
I'd like to move the bill if that's appropriate.
Well, you just beat out Senator Walk if it's appropriate with her. She was about to lean forward. Bill's been moved by Senator Pavley. Would you like to close, Assembly Member?
Respectfully request an aye vote.
And this bill also has a second referral to environmental quality. So do pass and refer to environmental quality. Secretary, please call the roll.
Lowenthal.
As amended. Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Huff.
Aye.
Huff, aye. Ashburn. Ashburn, aye. DeSaulnier. Harmon. Hollingsworth. Kehoe.
Thank you.
Oropeza. Pavley. Pavley, aye. Semidian. Semidian, aye. Walk. Walk, aye. 6-0.
Bill has sufficient votes for passage, 6-0, but we're going to place that on call for the absent members.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Assembly Member Huber.
Item 10.
Item number 10, Veteran Services. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. AB 716 seeks to address the problem of not having enough of our veterans enrolled in federal veterans benefits. We know that the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs has spent about $7.1 billion in fiscal year 2008 on providing benefits, and only about 11% of eligible veterans in California are participating in those national benefits. If we could just change that participation rate to the national average of 12%, that 1% difference could mean an additional $330 million in the pockets of our veterans and helping them to support their families and contribute to our economy. In order to do that, we need to think outside of the box. We have the CDVA doing most of our Veterans Administration, but they don't have enough resources. We certainly aren't getting in contact with as many of our veterans as we need to. So let's use some of the other state agencies that we know come into daily contact with our veterans and try to make sure that we're transmitting that information between agencies to help those veterans find out that they are eligible for benefits and get them enrolled in those benefits. And that's why we're targeting the Employment Development Department and the Department of Motor Vehicles as state agencies that can help to collect the information about veterans, transmit that information to the CDVA so that we can increase our participation rate at least to the national average of 12% and put more money in the pockets of our veterans. And I have Dana Nichols here with me to testify in support of the bill.
Witnesses in support.
Thank you.
Dana Nickel with Pete Conantine Associates, representing AMVETS, the American Legion, and the California Association of County Veteran Service Officers in support. The state has a revenue shortage. We also have people in need of services. Some of those people are veterans, and the federal government already has money allocated to help veterans. However, applying for these earned benefits is complicated. The state VA, the county veteran service officers, and veteran service organizations such as the Legion and AMVETS assist veterans obtain these benefits. Often a veteran is found to be eligible for VA benefits, thereby diverting them from impacted state programs such as Medi-Cal. Getting veterans on the VA rolls brings hundreds of millions of dollars to the state and local economies. Ailments can be treated before they become catastrophic and impact the state and county safety net. They can also prevent and treat homelessness, drug abuse, PTSD, traumatic brain injury, etc. These are all services provided. The VA and the CDVA also administer home loan programs, college fee waiver programs, and many other services. Knowledge and data are what can make these benefits more efficient and effective. And collecting data in this simple and inexpensive manner can also save money normally spent on outreach. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go on, I know Senator Simitian has a question, but before we go on, while this is an admirable goal, the question really is in terms of the appropriateness of DMV assuming these costs and what the impacts would be. And so I'd like to have Mr. Clare from DMV come up and address that issue. I know there have been discussions between the Assembly member and the DMV, and maybe you could apprise us on where you are and how that impacts. Is there a way of doing this without being very costly?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Dennis Clear from the Department of Motor Vehicles. I really do applaud the author in encouraging the departments to work together, because I do think that's an appropriate activity for brother and sister agencies. I just received information about staff-level discussions that have been going on about the cost issue and about the privacy and security issues. And I do think there is an approach that we can take in our field offices. Our initial concern was because we reach out through the internet, through our mail systems, that there were some costs incurred in that contact system, if you will. But there are brochures available from the Veterans Affairs. There are posters we can put in our office. We do that today with Consumer Affairs, with SMOG. So I think there is a low-cost solution there. The question is, do we need a bill? We could do it probably administratively, but if there's a feeling that a commitment we make at this time, whether you wanted to extend that, it certainly would be the legislature.
I think what we'd like to do is to work with our staff to amend the bill before it goes on. The bill is, I don't know, is it?
No, it's been to Veterans Affairs already.
It's already been to Veterans Affairs, but before it goes on to approach, that you would work with our staff, the author, and also DMV to amend the bill.
Be happy
I think that would make us a lot happier. Senator Simitian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if you're going to be working on amendments, I think the one concern I had was both on a privacy issue and also an access to services issue. I'm assuming, Assembly Member, that there is no intent that folks be required to provide additional information or their status as veterans as a precondition to receiving either a driver's license or the services of EDD. Is my assumption a correct one?
That is correct.
Then I think it might be helpful if committee staff is going to work on these issues, and if the author is amenable to some explicit language that makes it clear that, notwithstanding the provisions of this measure, that folks don't have to provide that information as a precondition to receiving a driver's license to which they're otherwise entitled, or to receiving services from EDD to which they're otherwise entitled. If that's acceptable to the author, it would make me feel a little bit more comfortable that all of a sudden you weren't going to have to start giving up this information as a requirement to get something you're otherwise entitled to.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And also to the committee, that seems reasonable, and we'll work with your staff and also with the author.
Thank you to the Assembly Member for her willingness to accommodate that.
Senator Ashburn.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I can follow on Senator Simitian's questions. If a person is applying for a driver's license, is there a process? Are they required to disclose that they're a veteran?
No, sir, not today.
And what about Employment Development Department services? Does anyone know if a person is? So, I mean, Senator Simitian asked the question about new requirements for disclosure of information. I don't understand what we're gaining if there's no self-identification already in statute or regulation where people who are availing themselves of DMV services or of EDD services, they're not providing that information that they're of their veteran status anyway. So what are we accomplishing?
And by your question, I think you're speaking to the proposed amendment by the senator to make it clear that they're not going to be denied EDD benefits or a driver's license by not disclosing, which is what the current law is?
With or without the amendment, the question is, if I'm availing, as a citizen, I'm availing myself of DMV services, I'm availing myself of EDD services, nowhere am I required on applications, forms, or otherwise to disclose if I'm a veteran. Then why do we have a mandate in your bill to have these departments start sharing information with veteran service if that information isn't already there?
I think your question goes to the heart of the purpose of the bill, which is to encourage those departments to gather that information and transmit that information to the DMV, because we have multiple state agencies that interface with veterans on a daily basis, and they're not knowing necessarily that they're entitled to receive federal veterans benefits.
I get that part. But that goes to Senator Simitian's question about gathering additional information about their veteran status.
And through the chair.
I mean, that's what you just said, was that that's what you're trying to do, is to get more information about veteran status from EDD and from DMV when they're not compelled to give that now.
Senator Simitian.
I think I think that the needle I'm trying to thread here, and I think the Assembly member is agreeable to this piece of it, is I don't frankly have a problem with the department or EDD saying, are you a veteran? But I also think it's important that it's understood that providing that information is voluntary, that essentially people get to opt in or not. That doesn't trouble me. And as long as it's clear to folks that they're going to get whatever they came for, whether or not they provide that information. So if the DMV, for example, and I know the bill is silent on this point, has a place that says check off the box, my hope would be that it says clearly voluntary. I don't think that's a big, hard thing to do if you're already going to put a check off the box. And that the staff understands that they're not going to point to that box and say, you didn't fill it out, and therefore I'm not giving you your license. So I don't mind the information being requested if it's clear to folks that it's voluntary, and if we're very clear that they are. So if somebody says, all due respect, it's none of your darn business whether I'm a veteran, they get to say that. With all due respect, whether I answer the question or not doesn't have anything to do with whether or not I get my driver's license or the benefits I'm entitled to from EDD. And I don't think the author's got a problem with that, and so that was the assurance that I needed.
And
Senator Ashburn.
Let me just add, that's not what the bill says. The bill does not say that EDD and DMV shall ask people of their veteran status. It doesn't say that.
If I may, it does ask the DMV and EDD to collect that information. And in that language is implicit. Now, we can be more specific if you'd like, that information is being requested. To the extent that they're already requesting that information, because some field offices will ask and refer people, then it wouldn't be necessary to say create a new way to collect the information. But the bill does ask the EDD and DMV to collect information from the consumers that they serve about their veteran status.
Mr. Chair, if I may, let me ask the representative of DMV, do some of your offices ask individuals their veteran status and others don't?
EDD.
I think excuse me, Senator, I think if you look on page 3 of the bill, lines 16 through 20, where it now says the Employment Development Department and the Department of Motor Vehicles shall collect the name, address, telephone number, and email address, if available, of individuals that identify themselves as veterans. I think we're eliminating shall collect is really what we're doing, and saying may provide or something, or provide an but is what we're saying, I think, to be consistent, or if or may request voluntarily the names to those people that identify themselves as veterans. I think what we're trying to say is to meet the needs of privacy by not requiring them to provide this information. In no way is this information part of obtaining a driver's license, but if they so choose, there'll be an opportunity to provide this information with the understanding that it's not a requirement. If they wish to do that, then that information will be collected. That's all we really... Now, the wording has to be done in such a way not to put the onus that the person has to provide it in any way. The way it's written now, you're absolutely right. It does say that they shall collect that information.
Sort of a opt-in.
We're going to eliminate that shall collect. And the language would be such that I hope would meet your
Chair,
needs.
the two provisions would be in conflict with one another.
How?
Well, if the departments are compelled by this bill to share the information that they gather, but there's no provision at the department level for people to check a box because that's not allowed, how in the world are they, if I'm the DMV, how am I going to know which name, address, and email I'm supposed to forward to Veterans Affairs? If there's not a box on the form now that says I'm a veteran, and we've deliberately said you're not going to put a box.
Let's let DMV answer that question. That's a good point. DMV.
Yes, Senator. My understanding is there are forms made available by the Veterans Affairs Administration that we do place in a few of our field offices when we're requested to put them on the counter, like we put a lot of brochures. The only question we would ask of an individual, whether they're a veteran or not, would relate to there are certain applications for special license plates where you have to demonstrate your status as a veteran, and we collected 214, but on the driver's license side or the ID card side, there is no requirement, and we do not collect that information. So what we are envisioning doing with the Veterans Affairs people is providing material forms that they would fill out, we would gather them, and then we would submit them when we have a number that's worth mailing to the local Veterans Affairs office. We would not actually collect that information in the sense that we once envisioned it would be part of one of our transactions.
Does that, and before I go to Senator Walk, okay, thank you, though. Senator Walk.
I just wanted to briefly make a comment. I support what you're trying to do. Having gone to, with you actually, to many stand-downs, that in fact, the real tragedy is that the participation rate is so low. And these are folks that need, and their families, who need the benefits that are available. So it seems to me that we ought to be able to, I applaud you for going outside of the box to figure out a way of making these benefits at least available. And I think that within the parameters of the concerns that have been raised, I think that this is a good bill and should move forward. I'll be ready to move it when you are, Mr. Chair.
The bill has been moved by Senator Walk. Pardon? Would you like to close? Are there any other comments? And the bill, as amended, and you will work with the committee on the language.
Absolutely. And if I may, just
yes, you may.
In closing, we are 38th in the country in terms of our veterans participation rates. And you can see why having to go to various different policy committees, it's very difficult to get different departments to work together so that we can gather this information, transmit it to the people who are responsible for helping get these veterans enrolled in these benefits, and trying to make it work, because of course it is a little bit more work, and we're trying to do it in an environment where we don't have the resources. So we moved away from collecting databases and transmitting electronic information. If at a minimum we can transmit this stuff manually and just allow the department to collect it and transmit it to the Veterans Affairs, then I think that we're at least making a step in the right direction towards increasing our participation.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
I would point out when you say we're 38th and that you want to do it in a non-obtrusive, way, that we are first in
number of veterans.
No, not only number of veterans, we're also number one, which we just heard earlier, in stolen cars. And so if there's some way we could leave this information in cars, it would be very, very helpful. But with that, okay, that's not been added to the motion. Bill's been moved by Senator Walk as amended. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Lowenthal.
Aye, as amended, or will be amended.
Wait a minute.
As amended.
Is it? Okay.
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Huff. Huff, aye. Ashburn.
No.
Ashburn, no. DeSaulnier. DeSaulnier, aye. Harmon. Hollingsworth. Kehoe. Oropeza. Pavley. Pavley, aye. Semidian.
Aye.
Semidian, aye. Walk. Walk, aye. 6-1.
Bill has 6 votes, sufficient for passage. We'll hold the roll open for absent members.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 15, Hill. Is our next.
AB 823, Assemblymember Hill. Welcome to Senate Transportation and Housing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senators, thank you to the committee staff for your hard work on this bill. It's much appreciated. AB 823 modifies the Bureau of Automotive Repair's Consumer Assistance Smog Check Program in 3 ways. 1, it authorizes BAR to increase the amount it pays to consumers to scrap high-polluting vehicles from $1,000 to up to $2,000. Scrappage programs are cost-effective, and unfortunately, money builds up in the fund because due to a lack of participation. Secondly, over the last 6 years, about $140 million has been braided from the high polluter repair and removal account. We are not increasing any fees. This revenue comes from existing special fund money that is not being utilized. Second reason, it prevents high-income earners from receiving state funding for the Vehicle Repair Assistance Program. Currently, you can receive up to $400 in state assistance if your car fails smog, regardless of income. The bill would limit participation in the Repair Assistance Program to families making less than $50,000 a year. And the third reason, it authorizes BAR to issue transit vouchers instead of cash as an incentive for the scrappage program. The goal of the bill is to reduce harmful emissions from older vehicles. 75% of vehicular pollution is caused by 25% of the oldest cars. The more polluting cars we can get off the road through the state scrappage program, the better. We will take the committee's amendments on page 4 of the analysis under number 5, clarifying that the consumer gets to determine if they want the transit vouchers or not. And I ask for your aye votes. Thank you.
We will accept that as author's amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
With that, witnesses in support.
Kurt Augustine with the Alliance of Automobile Manufacturers. We are the sponsor of this bill. We believe this is an excellent bipartisan measure that will help not only clean our environment but also provide some needed economic stimulus to our industry and is reflected on what has done in the federal program. We think this is an excellent program along the lines of President Obama's goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support?
Brian Moss of the California New Car Dealers Association. We're also in support of the bill. I think as Assemblymember Hill outlined, the bill has some modest but very effective goals. There's been a lot of money that's been left on the table in these various BAR accounts. And this gives BAR the flexibility to spend more money if there's customers waiting in line at the door who are eligible to receive it. It also shifts the repair incentive so that folks who are a higher income and who shouldn't be taking advantage of a repair assistance program can no longer do so. And finally, allowing transit vouchers makes sense because some people don't want replacement vehicles. They may live in an urban area and may want to take BART or the Red Line or what have you. So for those reasons, we're in support of the bill, and thank Assemblymember Hill for sponsoring it.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gus Corey on behalf of the California Transit Association. Appreciate the author's attempts to encourage additional transit use. We're in strong support.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairs and members of the committee. Paula Labrie with AAA Northern California. We're also in support.
Mr. Chairman, members, Mike Knudsen on behalf of the Automobile Club of Southern California in support of the bill.
Any other witnesses in support? Witnesses in opposition? Yes.
What is the source of the funds?
Watch out.
The funds are in the high polluter repair and removal account with BAR.
Now, where do they come from?
And where do
Where do
those
they come from? They come from the revenue that's received from those vehicles when if you have I think it's a 6-year or newer vehicle, 6-year-old or newer vehicle, and you pay the fee for the smog check, and you don't have to have your vehicle smog checked in that registration, that money then goes into this plan.
And we've not rated that fund for the
You have been rating the fund.
crisis?
We've been doing that regularly, and that's what we're trying to do is get the fund to do what it's supposed to do.
If there's any around, I mean, I hope somebody's listening.
They have been. Thanks, Senator.
You've stolen the thunder of the witness in opposition. Witnesses in opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, Norm Plotkin representing the California Automotive Wholesalers Association and the Automotive Aftermarket Industry Association, as well as LKQ Corporation. Let me just start by saying we're not opposed to the program. We're not opposed to increasing the amount of dollars available, nor are we opposed to means testing the availability of those funds. But if we're going to go into this program at this time, a program that hasn't been changed appreciably in 10 years, then all we ask is for a formal recognition of the sustainable practices that the automotive aftermarket industry engages in today, namely recycling. And I would just draw your attention to the fact that at the federal level, the Consumer Assistance to Recycle and Save program, also known as Cash for Clunkers, contains language that allows for the recycling of parts from these retired vehicles. We would ask only that this committee adopt conformity language that's in line with the federal measure that recognizes the important sustainable practices of the aftermarket. With that said, again, we don't oppose the program. We've been trying to work with the author and other interested folks. We have the federal language. We'd love to share it with you. I've got the whole bill. It was shoehorned into an appropriate military appropriations measure. But nevertheless, they do recognize the importance of recycling in the aftermarket, and we would hope that the state program do as well.
Assembly member, you wish to respond to that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I would. We've met with Mr. Plotkin, and the issue that he's raising is inconsistent with the state policies already in existence through CARB and other programs in terms of the scrappage. He is correct that the federal program is different than the state, and it's a basic policy issue that could be developed at another point in time, and we'd be happy to talk with Mr. Plotkin to look at this next year if possible, but we felt that it wouldn't be appropriate to add this policy change into our bill at this time.
Senator Pavley, did you want to make a comment?
No, it just seemed like a reasonable goal.
Which is that? Mr. Plotkin's goal?
The recycling rather than scrappage.
Some of the parts.
Well, they do recycle, I think, 80-some% of the vehicle currently.
CARB they pay for the cars, and then people come in to recycle parts of them before. No.
They shred them and send them to China.
The cars, the engines, blocks are bored, and then they're scrapped.
They pay per ton at the scrap yard, and there's no use of the usable parts. But why can't we acknowledge that as good policy? If the goal is to get these cars off the road because they're polluters, whether the parts go to salvage for reuse or whether the cars are shredded and put on a barge to China, don't we achieve the same goal?
Well, I think we achieve the same goal, but I think the issue is that those parts then that are taken off that are scrapped will then go into other cars of the same vintage, which could prolong the life of older vehicles that we're trying to keep from being on the road and continually polluting. It doesn't assist people to purchasing newer vehicles, but I think, as Mr. Plotkin indicated, we're happy to look at this. This is a policy issue that's inconsistent and different than the program that currently is in place.
I agree with you, Assembly Member. We're not really, first of all, knowledgeable about all the parts of the federal bill and how it is inconsistent. I think that the points that have been raised by Senator Ashburn and others about why, and Senator Pavley about why we're not recycling, are very worthy policy goals in and of themselves. I don't believe that we're able to shoehorn that in, just like they did this into the Veterans Bill, into this bill at this moment. But I do think the issues that have been raised are important issues that we may wish to discuss, and you want at some point to discuss it with our consultant or with members, how we can look at that issue. I don't see how we can do that now at this moment into this bill.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. Whether it's this bill or another bill, to the extent...
You have touched a chord with the committee members.
And I look forward to following up when working with you.
Great. Senator Huff.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo that, modern car recycling does somewhere between 80-85% of the parts coming out. And yes, some of them are older cars, but the same token, when they need those parts, they're going to go out and manufacture them new, and you're going to be creating all kinds of other byproducts.
They're using metals.
Yeah.
And extra energy.
The car's going to still. There you go.
So concerned about AB 32.
I do think this is.
Just remember, Senator, we have a bill for you for next year.
It sounds like it right there. I'm hearing it.
Now carved out an area that this committee
there you go.
Beautiful.
Sounds good, Mr. Chair. It sounds like an easy one. It looks like it'll pass this committee anyway.
And that's a treat.
And a subcommittee on scrappage.
Okay. But let's get back to this bill at this moment.
I respectfully ask for your aye vote, sir.
With it, AB 823 as amended, will the Secretary please call the roll?
Lowenthal?
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Huff?
Is that a no? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a no. That vote has to be recycled.
Huff, no. Ashburn?
No.
Ashburn, no to Sonier.
Aye.
Sonier, aye. Harmon? Hollingsworth? Kehoe? Oropeza? Pavley?
Aye.
Pavley, aye. Semidian? Wolk? 3-2.
Bill has 3 votes. We'll place that bill on call for the absent members. You need 3 more for passage.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I do have one other bill, AB 1379.
Item 32.
Item 32, AB 1379. Welcome again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senators. I accept the committee's technical amendment on page 2 of the analysis. I also want to thank the committee staff for working with my office on this bill. We've all been impacted by debris on the highway. In fact, I've got a big chunk in my car's upper windshield in the basement if anyone would like to come down and take a look at it. But all joking aside, spilled loads...
The committee is now adjourned. No.
Spilled loads from trucks on our highways can cause serious harm. According to the California Highway Patrol, there have been over 7,000 collisions and 10 deaths caused by spilled loads since 2003. Each year, the CHP issues over 2,500 citations for spilled loads. During my Ought to Be a Law contest, which is following after Senator Semidian's contest that he has had every year that I followed, that contest this year, 2 constituents submitted legislative proposals to crack down on highway debris. That was Scott Bushman from San Bruno and Ida Cook from Half Moon Bay. Their ideas resulted in AB 1379, which increases the base fine for spilled loads violations from the current $35 amount to $50. There is no opposition to the bill, and it has received bipartisan support. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Where's the money go?
First he wants to know where it came from.
And you also, you are taking the technical amendment.
We just took the yes, on page 2 of the analysis. Yes,
That's
yes,
good.
sir.
Members of the committee, witnesses in support,
That's a good question.
witnesses in opposition, not here. Members of the committee,
Legitimate question, Mr. Chair.
legitimate response from the chair.
The fine is going to be increased. Where would those funds go?
The funds will go in the same place that they go currently, and that would be in someone's fund. I don't know exactly where they go.
Which would be
the same fund that they get to,
the
not one that
giant
you can
black
raid,
hole
Senator.
in Sacramento. Oh.
No, this is not
I believe it's a city or county where the ticket was
It
issued.
goes, to the jurisdiction that the violation occurs, as well as the administration fees that are added.
Do you want to sweep that up also, Senator
No,
Ashburn?
deduct it from 1A. Sorry.
Other questions? Any way we can find a buck? Senator Huff.
I'm confused about what you expect a $15 increase in fine to accomplish. Wouldn't enforcement be a better way than just fining somebody?
Enforcement would, but this $15 does increase the actual amount that can be collected. When you add the assessments, it can go from the total from $170 to I think $350 is the amount that fine will actually be with all of the fees and assessments that go on top of it. So it is a substantial increase when you extrapolate that $15 out to the total cost of the fine.
Yeah. All right.
Not hearing any questions.
No, I think
Senator,
there's already legislation that requires loads to be covered, so there isn't. So these are people where inadvertently there's additional spills coming out of their pickup truck or their carrier.
They're poor people. They're trying to make a living out there with their little yard truck.
Is there a motion on the bill? Bill's been moved by Senator DeSaulnier. Would you like to close?
No, I respectfully ask for your aye votes. Thank you very much, Senator.
I liked your answer.
Lowenthal.
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Huff.
Well done, Jerry.
Huff, no. Ashburn.
No.
Ashburn, no. DeSaulnier.
Yes.
DeSaulnier, aye. Harmon. Hollingsworth. Kehoe. Oropeza. Pavley.
Aye.
Pavley, aye. Semidian. Walk. 3-2.
Bill has 3 votes. We'll place that on call for the absent members.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
That was a priceless.
Next, Assembly Member Nava. Item number 14, AB 798. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senators. I'm pleased to present on Assembly Bill 798, the Transportation Financing Authority. Capacity demands of transportation infrastructure in our state, combined with declining revenue streams for project financing, have severely eroded our transportation systems. As federal and state funding have declined, local governments have stepped up their funding for transportation projects and now account for the single largest share of state transportation financing. Local governments are willing to contribute even more. Assembly Bill 798 creates the California Transportation Financing Authority to help address this problem. Under the bill, the CTFA is authorized to issue or approve the issuance of revenue bonds for the construction or repair of publicly owned transportation projects. CTFA will enable state, regional, and local entities to contribute more to the funding of transportation projects, create a method for them to finance projects in the municipal bond market, and ensure that projects and funding are consistent with state transportation policy objectives and best practices public finance criteria. This bill recognizes the need for transportation funding and provides a way for those willing and able to pay for new capacity to build it. We have witnesses in support.
And as you point, this bill is nearly identical to your bill of last year, which passed this committee, I believe, by an 8-1 vote, but was vetoed with a generic message by the governor. So just to let everyone.
Thank you.
Witnesses in support.
Good afternoon. I'm Deputy Treasurer Katie Carroll, and I'm here on behalf of State Treasurer Bill Lockyer. We're actually sponsoring AB 798, and it does create a method for local and regional transportation agencies to speed up the process for financing much-needed transportation projects that would add capacity to our state's roadways. And we would respectfully urge your support.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support.
Kurt Evans with the Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority, and we're in support of the bill. We see this as an important piece of the transportation financing puzzle, and we've already taken a look at a couple of projects in our county that could conceivably utilize this mechanism, so we respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Chairman, members, Dave Ackerman representing the Associated General Contractors. We support the legislation, another tool in the toolbox to use. Given the current budget situation, Mr. Chairman, you sat through the conference committee where some very difficult decisions are being made on what to do with our existing gas tax dollars, and this will basically provide some leverage and options that probably won't exist for the next dozen or so years. Very good legislation. We ask for your support.
Mr. Chair, members, Joe Cruz on behalf of the California Alliance for Jobs and echo Dave's sentiments, but also wanted to touch on the fact that this generates money, but also creates jobs for these large-scale projects.
Other witnesses in support? Just state your name, your organization, and your position for the record.
Steve Wallach on behalf of the Alameda County Congestion Management Agency and the Alameda Contra Costa Transit District, also in support.
Good.
Mr. Chair, Chris McKaylee on behalf of the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority in support.
Mr. Chair, members, Gus Corr on behalf of the California Transit Association in support.
Thank you, Gus. Other witnesses in support? Are there witnesses in opposition? Members of the committee? Bill's been moved by Senator Pavley. Would you like to close, Assembly Member?
Respectfully ask for an aye vote. The chair pointed out this bill has had bipartisan support all the way through the process, right, 2 years in a row. Ask for an aye vote.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Lowenthal.
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Huff. Huff, aye. Ashburn. DeSaulnier. Harmon. Hollingsworth. Kehoe. Oropeza. Pavley. Pavley, aye. Semidian. Wolk. 3-0.
The bill has 3 votes. We're losing members rapidly, but it has nothing to do with your bill. And we'll place that on call for the absent members. You need 3 more votes for passage.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senators.
Who is next?
Furitani's here.
Assembly Member Furitani, welcome.
19.
AB 892.
Correct.
Goods Movement Emissions Reduction Program.
Thank you very much, Chairman, member of the committees. AB 892 addresses a problem in the Prop 1B Good Movements Emission Reduction Program that is delaying critical emission reduction projects around the state. Under current law, local air districts receive Prop 1B funds to provide grants for the replacement of old engines used at ports and along good movements corridors. Due in part to the slowing economy, many grant recipients decide at the last minute not to accept the Prop 1B grant. Oftentimes, the recipients simply cannot afford the matching fund requirement. Unfortunately, when the grant recipient backs out of a project, current law dictates that the funds revert back to the state's Prop 1B fund. The process to get these funds back in the hands of the engine owners who want to reduce emissions will take then over a year. AB 892 simply allows the local air district to use funds from a canceled project for another CARB-approved project on the district's waiting list. This process is similar to what is allowed in the Carl Moyer program. This bill will get Prop 1B grants in the hands of engine owners faster, resulting in cleaner air, green jobs, and more efficient goods movements. Mr. Chair, I would also like to accept the amendments indicated in the analysis, and I ask for an aye vote.
Those are the amendments in comments number 2 and 3.
Yes.
Assembly Member, those amendments will be accepted as author's amendments.
Thank you.
Witnesses in support.
Mr. Chairman, members, Will Gonzalez here on behalf of the South Coast Air Quality Management District and the Sacramento Metro Air Quality Management District. This is a fairly technical fix, but we do have project proponents backing out of projects due to the economy. We've got projects ready to go. I hate to use the term, but shovel ready. And because of the current rules in SB 88, the authorizing 1B language, we aren't allowed just to go down the list. So this fixes that problem, and we ask for your support.
Other witnesses in support?
Brendan Tuig on behalf of the California Air Pollution Control Officers Association in support of the bill.
Are there any witnesses in opposition? Not hearing any comments by members of the committee. The bill's been moved by Senator Pavley. Assembly Member, would you like to close as amended?
Very straightforward bill. Thank you very much, Chairman. I urge and I vote.
Thank you. It's a very good bill. Secretary, please call the roll.
Lowenthal.
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Huff. Huff, aye. Ashburn. DeSaulnier. Harmon. Hollingsworth. Kehoe. Oropeza. Pavley. Pavley, aye. Semidian. Wolk. 3-0.
Bill has 3 votes. We'll place that on call. You need 3 additional votes. Maybe you can help us round up those members. They're floating around the building
How much time do we have?
somewhere.
Thank you, Senator.
Evans is the only.
No. Fuller just came.
Okay.
So who's next?
Yeah.
Is it Fuller is next?
Take her name, yeah.
Evans? Come on, Assembly. No, well, she came in. She's been waiting for a long time.
Thank you.
We'll let you sneak in there ahead of Assemblymember Fuller because her back was turned and you were looking at us. Welcome.
E4F, it's alphabetical.
Absolutely.
So
Welcome
she's
to the
very
committee.
kind.
It's a pleasure
Thank
to have you.
And I will be very, very brief. Mr. Chair and members, this bill allows the Solano Transportation...
Well, let's just say the bill number. I think we're
I'm
talking
sorry.
about item number 27, AB 1219, Public Transportation, Solano Transportation Authority. Welcome.
Thank you. And what this bill does is it allows the Solano Transportation Authority to become a direct claimant of Transportation Development Act fundings, and it streamlines the distribution of the funds. Currently, the county must wait until all of the other local operators within the county, i.e. the cities, receive their allotment before the county share is dispersed. All of the cities within Solano County have agreed to this. It would avoid a delay of up to 6 months period. It's already being done in Orange and Placer counties, and so this would simply streamline and make much more efficient the distribution of funds within Solano County. Gus Corey is here to answer any questions you might have.
Witnesses in support.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, Gus Corey on behalf of the Solano Transportation Authority. We are the sponsor of the measure. Happy to answer any questions. I think, the author basically, her statement said it all. These are funds that we receive anyway. Our board is made up of the cities that receive the funds, and so this just expedites funding that we're going to receive in order to coordinate activities within the county, so we ask for your support.
Witnesses in opposition. Bill's been moved by Senator Pavley. Would you like to close?
I would ask for an aye vote.
Will the Secretary please call the roll on AB 1219?
Lowenthal.
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Huff, aye. Ashburn. DeSaulnier. DeSaulnier, aye. Harmon. Hollingsworth. Kehoe. Oropeza. Pavley. Aye. Pavley, aye. Semidian. Walk. 4-0.
Bill has 4 votes. We'll place that on call. You need 2 more for passage.
Thank you.
Assemblymember Fuller, thank you for your patience.
She's still smiling.
AB 882.
Item number 18.
Item number 18.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, this bill allows family and friends of fatal car accident victims to purchase at their own cost memorial signs overseen by Caltrans near the site of the deadly crash. As the committee analysis and the Republican analysis state, this program is at no cost to the state. All costs are covered by the requesting party, including the production, installation, and upkeep of the highway memorials. This bill is supported by Paula Labrie from AAA and Abate, and Paula is with us today.
Witnesses in support.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Paula Labrie with AAA of Northern California. We have adopted a support position on this bill. We think this type of program is beneficial in terms of the healing process for those who have to endure the unfortunate circumstances of having lost a loved one on the highway. In addition to that, imparts a important traffic safety message to the motoring public. We know that these programs do have public support. There are limitations in terms of the number of signs that can be put up, and we do support it and urge your aye vote. Thank you.
Other witnesses in support? Are there witnesses in opposition? Any questions from members of the committee? I have a question.
Yes.
I'm just suggesting this. You're requesting really up to 20 signs per year. Right now in California we have 12 Caltrans districts, and I'm wondering whether I would prefer when we're doing signs such as this to remember those accident victims or other, that we kind of spread them out in the state. It's not a requirement. And so my suggestion, it's up to the author, would be to do 2 signs per district per year, which would get you up to 24 signs rather than the 20 that you're asking. But it would make sure that we would spread this out. Now, you may not want to do that. There may be reasons, which I haven't thought about, that may want to concentrate signs in certain districts. But I personally would like to see this as a program that would really be statewide and that each district would be allocated up to 2 signs per year. But that's your choice.
Well, actually, I wouldn't mind the 24 signs. What we found with the DUI program, the signs are memorialized from drunken drivers, is that most of these accidents happen along the 99, and it doesn't seem to be that they get spread out all over the state. In my case, 119 is the highway that is the problem. So I would be interested in doing something either which says that we would allow like 2 per area, but that there's some period of time, then the others, they could use it in the other areas, or maybe the other way around, saying not more than 8 in any one area. Either way would be something I'd be willing to work with you on.
Well, I would be willing to let the bill go through without amendments, but if you would like to work with our consultant to see if there's some language that we could come up with, that would be fine.
I have no huge problem with either one of those. I think it's nice to be fair, but if nobody uses it...
Right, and I think that's a reasonable thing. So I think if we can find some language that's agreeable to you and to the committee, let's do it. If not, let's move the bill forward now without amendment.
Thank you.
Senator Pavley, can you speak into the microphone?
Just out of curiosity, do the signs stay up indefinitely?
7 years or, 7 years or, and unless they become defaced, then they're taken down at an earlier stage. And more than one family member can put their name, in other words, if there's more than one crash, you can put their names on the same sign.
Do I hear a motion on the bill? Is this bill?
I'll move it.
Bill's been moved by Senator Huff. Would you like to close, Assembly Member?
Just ask for an aye vote, please.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Lowenthal.
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Huff. Huff, aye. Ashburn. Ashburn, aye. DeSaulnier. Harmon. Hollingsworth. Kehoe. Oropeza. Pavley. Pavley, aye. Semidian. Semidian, aye. Wolk. Wolk, aye. 6-0.
That bill has sufficient votes for passage, but we're going to place it on call and leave the roll open for the absent members.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Blumenthal. Did anyone else come in?
Let me just...
Blumenthal was here. I don't know which one. Let's see.
Next. The next
Yes,
is
he's
Tirico.
standing up. Blumenthal.
Tirico.
20. Is he here? Because
Yeah.
they didn't call me.
Our next week, since we are going in file order, AB 744, Assembly Member Tirico, Transportation Toll Lanes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. AB 745 would authorize the Bay Area Toll Authority.
744. Present the right bill.
Yeah, that would be good.
That would be good.
Appreciate it. AB 744 would authorize the Bay Area Toll Authority to construct and operate a high-occupancy toll lane network. The purpose of the bill is to integrate, fully integrate toll lanes with existing HOV lanes. As the chairman and I discussed earlier, and many of you well know, all of you well know, we are having significant issues in terms of revenue. This is a way to generate revenue by converting existing HOV lanes to a hybrid HOV lanes and HOT lanes where people can go into those lanes with the use of fast track. The revenue generated will allow us in the Bay Area to build an additional 300 miles of hybrid HOV, HOT lanes, and also to fund a number of infrastructure projects, including public transportation, which is much needed in that corridor. Mr. Chairman, I have several witnesses to testify in support of the bill, if I could turn it over to them. There are a number of amendments that I'm willing to take after discussions with Senator DeSaulnier And after consideration of the committee analysis, I'm happy to take those up now as author's amendments, or we can proceed with the presentation.
Well, let's
of
go.
the
Let's
amendments.
proceed, and then we can talk about the amendments. With the committee's indulgence, I have a number of questions that I want to ask, and we'll move forward. But with that, witnesses in support.
Mr. Chairman, committee member Steve Heminger, I'm Executive Director of the Metropolitan Transportation Commission and the Bay Area Toll Authority. We're the sponsor of the bill. The bill, in simple terms, is about doing more with less, a subject that I know you're painfully aware of these days in Sacramento. By first of all, squeezing more mobility out of the scarce roadway capacity we have by encouraging carpooling, van pooling, and transit use. Secondly, it squeezes more funding out of scarce taxpayer dollars by permitting voluntary toll payers to help expand our HOV network. And thirdly, we hope to literally squeeze as many of these new HOV lanes as possible within the existing right-of-way of the state highway system by using a rapid delivery model in designing and constructing the system. And we urge your aye vote.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support?
Kurt Evans with the Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority. And in Santa Clara County, we've embraced the concept of express lanes. In fact, one of the centerpieces of our long-range transportation plan is the development and implementation of a comprehensive express lane system within our county for the reasons that Mr. Heminger suggested in terms of why the concept makes sense. And while it's true that we have existing statutory authority to do 2 express lane corridors within our county, there are 2 reasons why this bill is particularly appealing to us. First, it would provide a financing mechanism through the Bay Area Toll Authority that would enable us to get our express lane network in Santa Clara County up and running sooner and cheaper than if we tried to do it on our own. And second, AB 744 would provide a mechanism for melding our efforts in Santa Clara County into a regional framework that would accommodate multi-county trips to and from Santa Clara County. So we respectfully ask for your aye vote for this important measure. Thank you.
Other witnesses in support?
Yes, Peter Skinner on behalf of the Silicon Valley Leadership Group. Our 300 member companies are strongly in support of this bill.
Thank you. Other witnesses?
Joe Cruz on behalf of the California Alliance for Jobs in strong support as well.
And Mr. Chairman, Dave Ackerman, representing the Associated General Contractors, again in support. I'm consistent with the bills I'm supporting today.
Good afternoon. Steve Wallach on behalf of the Alameda County Congestion Management Agency, the Alameda County Transportation Improvement Authority, and the Alameda Contra Costa Transit District are also in support of this bill. We also have authority for 2 hot lanes currently.
Other witnesses in support?
Gus Corey on behalf of the California Transit Association and Solano Transportation Authority in strong support of the bill.
Paula Labrie on behalf of AAA of Northern California in support.
Tim Kremens, operating engineer, supplementing scarce transportation funding.
Julie Pierce, Contra Costa Transportation Authority. I want to thank Assemblyman Tirico for accepting our suggested amendments and for Senator Saulnier for working with us to get those amendments into the bill. With those amendments, we will support the bill.
Other witnesses in support?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. David Durant, also from the Contra Costa Transportation Authority, and also extending thanks to Tirico and Senator DeSaulnier for the amendments that we've proposed. Thank you.
Other witnesses in support? Are there witnesses in opposition?
Good afternoon, Chair Lowenthal, members of the committee. Christina Atienza, I'm Executive Director of the U.S. Contra Costa Transportation Advisory Committee. I'm here to represent the cities of El Cerrito, Hercules, Pinole, Richmond, and San Pablo. We are opposed to the bill as it is written today for several reasons that specifically affect the I-80 corridor that serve our constituents. The first reason is that we are not expecting any new revenue, really, from this, or it's very questionable. It's a loss leader. MTC's own planning estimate estimates that over the 25-year life that was looked at the Regional Transportation Plan, we're going to lose $22.5 million for the I-80 corridor. So it's a loss leader. Secondly, the bill as it stands, we think will increase inequity for West Contra Costa's low-income population. As it stands right now, our low-income population in West County is about 36% higher than the rest of the Bay Area, and we think that they will be disproportionately disadvantaged the way the bill is written right now, especially if there's no revenue that ends up coming back that we can then end up spending on transit. And thirdly, in West County, because it is I-80 has been the most congested corridor in the Bay Area for the past decade, we have spent significant time and effort investing in transit, and including spending 60% of our local sales tax on transit initiatives. And we think that encouraging SOVs, or single occupancy vehicles, will severely undermine that effort. So we are strongly encouraging your no vote on this bill unless it is amended to ensure that there is sufficient local support before any hot lanes are installed in a particular corridor, or barring that, a specific exclusion of I-80 and Contra Costa from further consideration. Thank you.
Other witnesses in opposition?
Michael Endicott with Sierra Club, California. I had a sheet passed out to you mostly for the back of the map, which has the green corridors are ones that would be new. In authorizing the Bay Area Toll Authority to develop the express lane network, AB 744, to our way of thinking, will significantly increase highway capacity, leading to long-term increases in the vehicle miles traveled, and associated greenhouse gas emissions will also increase. We need to have a real and concurrent stream of funding for transit operations and alternative transit infrastructure. Without a day one commitment to transit improvements, we'll end up re-stimulating sprawl, particularly along the corridors of I-580 and Route 4 as well. There's a substantial amount of this project, almost 50%, that would be new lanes, generating new traffic. And it also sets up, in, as you've sort of heard the comments before, a decision-making infrastructure that is quite complex and is biased away from transit authorities. In looking back at previous projects, we have not seen the funding that we might have expected or hoped for out of other similar projects. And so it needs to be made explicit before this bill goes forward about how much funding transit can expect and how to incorporate community concerns and stakeholder concerns in at the planning process when they're developing not only the corridor investment plan, but the development plans and also the project status reports. So that needs to be adjusted too. The committee analysis was quite detailed, talked about some of the major policy implications of such a broad toll lane scheme, not only in the aspects that I've discussed, but also as to the high occupancy vehicles. If I can step out just for a moment as Me Too, there were a couple organizations that had hoped to be here but couldn't get here. One, maybe because he's still on his bicycle, from the San Francisco Bicycle Coalition, and then also the Livable City. Thank you very much.
Other witnesses in opposition?
Thank you very much. Tina Endley with the Planning and Conservation League. We're opposed for the reasons stated, and I want to say that given the complexity of the issues as outlined in the analysis, it would be appropriate to take a step back, give time to look at these issues more, and perhaps it ought to be a 2-year bill. We're primarily concerned that the bill is shifting emphasis away from high occupancy vehicles to single occupancy vehicles that generate revenue, and I'm not sure that's the direction that we should be going when we need to be looking at getting passengers into fewer cars to not only reduce greenhouse gas emissions but reduce congestion.
Thank
for those
you.
reasons we asked for.
And other witnesses in opposition, just state your name, organization, and your position.
With Transform, formerly the Transportation Land Use Coalition, and we shared similar concerns.
Are there other witnesses here in opposition? Assembly member, I'd like to say, first, I'm in general and very supportive of what you're trying to do. I think a regional approach to planning and infrastructure is the way to go, and I commend you for bringing together everyone rather than just a corridor-specific strategy. I think that's a major step forward. I also think that just the concept of looking at everything in terms of a network and where that network has problems and linkages, and the Bay Area is only as strong as some of those weakest links, and understanding the totality of the network is the way we should be going, and I applaud you on that. Although there are some questions in there that for me to move forward at this moment, I would just like to have some discussion on that and explore that. Let me tell you the areas, and you may wish to have some of your sponsor do that. The first one is the concept that we've talked about, and I'll ask you questions about it. I'm just letting you know where the general questions will come from. Will be the purpose of this, revenue generation versus throughput. That's the first. We need some clarification on that. Second is, are we going to be converting the conversion of general purpose lanes? Is that really part of this concept? Then there are just some concerns that were raised that have to do with the financing of the network. Fourth is, where does transit fit into this specifically? And we're going to ask some questions. I'm going to ask some questions about transit, maintenance of it once the system is in place, who is responsible for the maintenance, and another one is on constructing, maintaining, rehabilitating versus just acquiring the network. So those are the general areas that, and these are not criticisms. This is such an ambitious thing that we just need more specification, or I would like, in these areas. The first one about, and I do say I will take a few minutes for me to go through all this. The first one has to do with the question, the purpose of this, revenue generation versus throughput. And, you know, you want to build an HOV lane network, and you're seeking to have, to make these lanes hot lanes in order to generate the revenue that's, as you pointed out, that's going to be able to finance the development of the network. You know, hot lanes are usually developed on HOV lanes that have excess capacity, and so that they can accommodate single passenger vehicles. That's really why we want to do that. Right now, we know that some HOV lanes are congested, which, regardless of tolling, indicates a need to raise occupancy standards for that lane. That's what we know now when we already have that situation. But what is silent in the bill, and what happens if a lane now has excess capacity? Okay, and so it becomes congested after we've now allowed toll-paying customers are provided access. Okay, we've now set up the system, and now that excess capacity no longer exists. How will you determine what proportion of the congestion is due to inadequate occupancy standards, therefore you raise the occupancy standards, and how much of it is due to the fact that that congestion is due to too many single occupant vehicles in the lane? How do we address that when, in fact, not today, we now have too much congestion. We don't have excess capacity, and we're now trying to find the balance between the single occupancy vehicle and those folks who are now engaged, who are with what we're talking about in terms of multiple passengers, in terms of increasing. Are you automatically just going to increase the occupancy standards, or are you going to? How do you address the fact that much of that congestion may be due to the allowing of single passenger vehicles? I didn't see anything in the bill about that.
Let me add another factor which you didn't mention in your question, which is that the bill will leverage revenues for the construction of 300 new miles, which are not part of the system now, which have to be factored into any analysis of traffic mitigation, number one. Number two, do you want to confer with your staff, sir?
Just wanted to say, if it's all right with you, they are lifting calls. These are important questions. I know Senator Simitian has asked to be here. He's gone down lifting calls. I need to go just to lift the call in a committee that's been going on all morning. If we could take a recess for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, no longer than that, if that's appropriate.
At your disposal, sir.
Let's just take a because these are, well, let me just, I've already mentioned the areas. And generally, I just need some discussion on these issues as we move forward. Let's take a 10-minute recess.